All right, welcome back. This video is going to be the next video in the sequence of really digging into some of the fundamental principles of algebra and really the foundational building blocks that we're going to need to scaffold up to do some of these more complex and abstract algebraic processes. But what we're going to talk about in this video is going to be the order of operations. So PEMDAS, you may have seen this acronym before or heard the expression, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Essentially, the P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponents, M multiplication, D division, A addition, S subtraction. So the reason why we highlight this order is because this is the order in which you want to perform the given operation in order to ensure that your simplification process is correct. So what we want to do first is we want to do all of the operations inside the parentheses, and then we do those in order from exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And then after we've simplified everything inside the parentheses, we look to see if we have any numbers raised to another power. If we do, we simplify those operations, and then if we don't, we just go right over to multiplication and division. The thing with multiplication and division, we don't need to necessarily do the multiplication or division first. We perform the operations from left to right. And similarly, once we've performed all of those operations, we're going to do addition and subtraction from left to right, very much like what we did with multiplication and division. Now, that doesn't probably make a whole lot of sense unless you've seen it in action. So here we've got sort of some of the basic steps prioritized for you. So I'm going to put parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction up here. I'm looking, I don't have any parentheses, so I don't need to worry about that. I don't have any exponents, so I don't need to worry about that. But I do have multiplication and division. So when I do this work, I tend to put a set of parentheses around the operations that should be performed first. In doing so, that tells me I need to do 12 divided by 2 first before I do the subtraction piece right here. It also tells me I need to do the 4 times 2 first before I can do the subtraction piece. So 24 divided by 2 is going to be 12. We're going to keep that subtraction operation there. And then 4 times 2 is 8. Now that we've simplified this, the only operation we have left is subtraction, and we know that 12 minus 8 is 4. Now it's going to seem like it's relatively easy because I've done this a million times and I know the process. So if you need to take a moment, pause it, and go back and really think through this stuff, by all means, totally go ahead and do that. Now here we have a different setup. I'm going to put this up here. If you find this practice to be helpful, where you set up your PEMDAS and then you just cross off as you sort of check off each of the operations, go ahead and do that. You notice that I crossed off the P because there's no parentheses here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip right over to exponents. And then I notice that I do have an exponent, or a 6 to the second power. So that's going to be 36. And then it's got 36 divided by 6 times 2 plus 1. So this is what we have to do left to right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our multiplication and division from left to right. So here we're going to do 36 divided by 6, which is going to be 6. And then we have 6 times 2, it's going to be, or 6 times 2, which is going to be 12, plus 1. So once we simplified the 36 divided by 6, we now have 6 times 2, and that's going to be 12, and then 12 plus 1 is equal to 13. So again, this is where it could get a little confusing. You may, in your mind, think that you have to do the 6 times 2 first, which gives us 36 divided by 12, which is going to throw off the entire simplification process. So again, when you have division and multiplication in the same sequence, we perform those operations left to right. Okay? And then here's sort of a breakdown of that work. And if you need to take a minute and pause it to write down these 4 steps in your notes, definitely go ahead and do that. And you can always come back to the next slide. Okay, now this is where it continues to get super complex because we're adding layers upon layers upon layers. Because if we look, we have parentheses, but inside the parentheses we do have a power. We are raising 4 to the second power. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this 4 plus, I'm going to raise that 4 to the second power first, and we know 4 times 4 is 16. So we got 4 plus 16 minus 13 minus 3. So as you'll notice that every time I perform an operation, I write it down and I start fresh. Sometimes we're going to be so excited to do this, we're going to plug it all into the calculator. And the thing you want to be careful with is the calculator has a tendency to get it wrong, because the calculators aren't often as smart as we humans are, because they don't understand order of operations as thoroughly. So we got 16 minus 13 in the parentheses. That gives us 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify it and write it again. Then we have 4 plus 3 minus 3 ends up being 7 minus 3, or just 4. Again, I'm going through this pretty quickly. If you want to take a minute, pause it, and go through it on your own, you can totally do that yourself. Okay? So again, evaluate the exponent inside the parentheses, work inside the parentheses, evaluate the exponents. Oh, I totally missed the spot. Oh, I totally missed that exponent on the outside. So let's go back and fix that. Okay. So what I forgot to do, I totally botched this because this is to the second power. So let's bring this over here. And it's going to be, actually I'll bring it below because it's going to overlap. So I have 4 plus 3 to the 4th power minus 3. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we have 3 to the 4th power. I know 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. So we're going to have 4 plus 81 minus 3. Okay, so see, even the instructors are capable of making missteps when they're not super focused and paying attention. So make sure you are doubling down and documenting each step in your process as you do this work. So we have 85 minus 3, and the end result is going to be 82. So again, make sure you're doubling down and keeping an eye on your powers to make sure that you perform those operations correctly. Okay, now here we're dealing with fractions. I know some of you all may be shaking your heads and you don't really like fractions, but that's okay. You'll notice we have an exponent here. We're going to apply that operation first. So we have negative 1/5 times 1/2 minus 3 over 2 to the second power is end up going to be 9 over 4. So now we're going to have negative 1/5 times 1/2 gives us negative 1 over 10 minus 9 over 4. And if we look at 10 and 4, it's going to have an LCD of 20. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this negative 2 over 20, because we're going to multiply this by 2 over 2, because 2 times 10 is 20, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And the cool thing about 2 over 2, that's equal to 1, so we're not changing the overall value. And here we're going to multiply this by 5 over 5, which gives us minus 45 over 20, because 4 times 5 is 20, and all that good stuff. So now that we've performed our simplification with the exponents and the multiplication, we now have negative 2 minus 45. And the way I look at this type of operation, sometimes students get confused. If we're thinking about negative 2 minus 45, we can think about it, I'm 2 feet below the surface, and I'm going to dive down an additional 45 feet. And that puts us at 47 feet below the surface. So the simplified version of this work right here is going to be negative 47 over 20. Now, this is complex stuff because we're dealing with fractions. If you need to take a minute, pause it, and work through it on your own, and then come back and double check, by all means, go ahead and do that. All right, that's it for this video. Hopefully this work was helpful. As you're working with order of operations, remember to please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You do the parentheses first, then the exponents, then the multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction to close it out. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment below or let me know via email. That's totally fine. Anyway, good luck. I look forward to connecting with you in the next video.